So here we are today with a great friend and one of my mentors, if I may say, Professor George Boustras. Good afternoon, Professor.
Thank you very much, Agustin. Don't call me professor, I'm George. And let me just start, although I shouldn't perhaps, and I know that you're not going to like it. I'm not going to say something bad, I'm going to say something good. I want to congratulate you for what you do. I want to congratulate you for a number of reasons. First of all, because this is your initiative. This is something that you do on top of your extremely busy and extremely tiresome work. You're a firefighter. That's one. Secondly, because this has an impact, definitely in a local level. This type of communication, it is communication actually, that you are putting forward with all the, not only the what we're doing today with the interviews and with the people before and the people that are going to come after, but all the actions that you are taking, they're very positive, especially for a small part of the world like we inhabit, which is, I'm not going to say backwards, but I'm going to imply that probably. No, but it is, how can I say that, difficult to change. And since we're talking about cultures, since we're talking about safety cultures, fire safety cultures, this is what we're discussing in essence. What you're doing is not only innovative, radical, but highly commended. And I'm grateful to be your friend. I'm grateful for what you do, and I'm grateful for the invitation you gave me today. I'm very happy to be here. I'm always happy when we meet, but I'm happier today.
Thank you so much. Likewise, you're a person that I appreciate immensely, that I respect the most. And it's a great pleasure to have you, one of my first attendees on this podcast, the Reburned. You're a subject matter expert, one of the finest, if not the finest. Actually, you're the subject matter expert on risk in Cyprus, and we're very grateful to have you on Ireland. I am very grateful as well. So, as I told to the other guests, the raison d'être, it's a French phrase. The reason behind being this podcast is to actually echo the words of many experts, as yourself, from both the academic field and the practitioners field. I think we need to amplify those information to the people on local and international level. I think we are in a very pivotal point in history now with the climate change, and we need to work together so we get ready for what's coming, because people like you, the scientists, have been warning people of what's coming. Unfortunately, self-included,
people are not listening.
Yes. So this is a great opportunity. And without further ado, please tell us a little bit more about yourselves. I know you, but the people don't. Some of them, mostly they do.
It's always nice. I'm always assuming that nobody knows me, so I'm always trying to put forward a message. And I try to put forward a message for one reason, because what we do, our science, our profession, I think it is a very good reason. I think it is a very good cause, actually. I'm not going to say that we are here to change the world, but actually that's what we are advocating. What we are advocating is a cultural change, because yourself being a practitioner and being a scientist as well, myself being a scientist and wannabe practitioner, although thankfully, like I haven't had to practice this. I think at the end of the day, what we have to realize, and what I like about you, Agustin, and what I like about what we do today is this realization that we're achieving together. We have to realize that this is a real problem. It is not only a scientific problem. It is not only a professional issue. It is a wider problem. And why I'm saying this? Because I want to describe what I'm doing. What am I doing? I started... now I'm going to be 50 next year. I'm always revealing my age. I started not 30, but 20 25 years ago with my PhD. Yeah, 25 years ago with my PhD in probabilistic fire risk assessment, with a focus on on dwellings, on buildings.
Mm-hmm.
And I started that because, admittedly, at that time there weren't many scientists that they were working in wildland fires or bush fires or forest fires, whatever you want to call it. At the end of the day, we're talking more or less about the same issue with minor differences in the way that it spreads and it accelerates. But anyway, so I started with this. And in the first years after I finished my PhD, I was thinking, why did I do this? I couldn't find this really making me, like happy. And then I realized that I'm a risk assessor. And when I realized that I'm a risk assessor, I realized that the techniques and whatever I innovated towards my PhD, they would give me an understanding on trying to explain risks, not only in dwelling fires, but then I started working in different types. I moved later in the area of pure safety. But I'm always having back and forths with fire. And then, like it was, well, as I revealed my age and I said I'm 50, obviously when you get older, it comes, like your mind, obviously, you are trying to identify yourself. And this is when I really identified myself as a risk assessor, because I realized that occupational safety and health excites me very much, because it is something that it is happening in front of you in the office, in the workplace, and all that, all the impacts, and what you see, what you read in the news, what you're going to see in the television, you're going to see that in your papers later on. But fires equally excite me, and societal safety equally excites me. So if I could try to define myself, I could say that I'm a person that studies risk in two spheres: occupational and societal safety. Societal safety, civil protection, fire safety engineering, and all that. I think this is where I am. People would say that specialization is extremely important. I feel very specialized, although my output has 2-3 different focuses. But I feel that I'm specializing on what I do. Definitely, what I do makes me feel happy. So if it makes me feel happy, that's what I'm going to do. So
That's
yes,
the
this
key.
is it.
That's the key.
Yes.
And
But what
yeah,
last
please.
question.
Please,
Sorry,
please.
last try to answer. Through this, in the beginning, I was, like after my PhD, I was working with myself. Then I started developing a group. And I'm very blessed to have around 40 people working with me in the areas that I said before. But then the next step was that I realized that it is not only about the closed group that we work together, but the associates that we work together, like you, like others around in Cyprus, in the region, in Europe, in Australia, in Oceania, not only Australia, in Northern Europe, in America. So many different friends, I dare say, that we're exchanging opinions, we're writing papers together and all that. And this makes me even more happy.
Firstly, you don't look like 50.
Yeah, thank you very
that.
much. I didn't say that, but yes, thank you. I feel much younger.
Absolutely. You are vibrant, you have energy, much more less than your age. So, and I'm very grateful that I'm part of your team. Absolutely, you are a risk specialist, which I'm very happy to call a friend. And also, you have a gift, the gift of simplifying information. And when you're stating something, you're stating in such a form that even it can be absorbed and digested by the majority of the population. You break down the scientific language into the more simplistic language. So, and I think I echo the opinions of many that when you speak, either on TV or online or in written form, you transfer that information in such a form that is easily absorbed by everyone. So that's a pretty big gift, George.
Thank you, Agustina. Let me try to explain you why I'm doing that. Because I'm an average person and I need to understand it myself. So in order to understand it myself, I have to break it down. And I'm linking it now with the risk background that I have. This is why I like risk, because risk analysis, risk communication, risk assessment, risk management, it is about breaking down little big pictures or big cases in small parts and try to fit them together. It's like a puzzle. And that's why I like it very much. And that's why I think at the end of the day, this makes me happy, because as I said, I'm an average person. In order for myself to understand things, I have to break them down. I find a very nice way to break them down through this process. And perhaps and thank you very much for saying that, if I'm successful in transferring these knowledges, because I'm saying out loud what I'm thinking.
And it's one of your characteristics, and it's greatly appreciated. So the first question, dear George, as an expert on risk, it's a simple question, although it's not so simple. Are you worrying? With regards, of course, always the wildfires and climate crisis.
Yes, I am, because let me tell you why I'm worrying. As a scientist, and I think as a person in general, I'm not going to say conservative, but I'm going to say I'm taking calculated risks. And I'm always trying to do whatever I do in base whatever I do in some facts. The fact of these facts is that we had, let's say, an acceleration mode of climate change or temperature. Let's make it easier for people to understand. Environmental, like temperature and all that. At a certain point, nature surprises me the last few years. I'm old enough, we're talking about my age a lot today, but this is good.
Yeah.
I'm old enough to remember summers many years ago, 30, 40 years ago, that they were equally hot. But I don't remember summers that they were so hot for so long. And this is it, because if I look back 10 years ago, 15 years ago, of course, I will remember extremes. I remember back in the Christmas of 2012, 13 or something, I was wearing a t-shirt. This was an extreme, but I remember many more extremes lately. And this is not correct. And this is not right, because it creates a lot of uncertainty. Because I spoke about risk, numerical methods. We're not talking about a linear equation anymore. We're talking about a non-linear system of equations. We had an equation which was more or less linear. You knew more or less how it was going. Now you don't only have one question, you have a system of equations. In addition to that, they are non-linear. So let's say in mathematics or statistics, they're difficult to solve, because we have our discussions together and we have our discussions with other people. And every summer we're trying to narrow down the possibilities by, let's say, advancing prevention. But then all of a sudden you see that it is not only about prevention, but it is also about suppression. Okay, let's advance suppression prevention. And then you realize that there is a parameter that comes up. And this uncertainty is what makes me feel worried in the last few years. A lot of uncertainty in the system, since we're talking about equations. A lot of uncertainty.
Thank you so much. And so you have been in Cyprus for many years now. How many?
I'm a Cypriot now, so I've been for 16 years.
16 years. So you have a good experience with regards to how the general public and the communities are viewing the risk on wildfires. So the next question is, are Cypriot citizens aware of what's in play or what's in the way? How are we as a community or as communities on this small island?
Let me say that I keep on complaining that we are not. The reality is that we are in a latent phase where we're becoming more aware. We are not aware yet. There are some people that, let's say volunteers and all that, that they realize that there is some movement. I don't think it is for the right or the wrong reasons, but at least you sense that there is some movement. And I hope this will change. But they invited me. This is something that I came across this summer. They invited me in public television, like every summer, as you know. Unfortunately, you know, like I'm not regular, but okay, if there is a big event, I will be on television, unfortunately. But they invited me. And there was a panel of Greek journalists in the Greek national TV, ERT. And there were 6 journalists. It was the first time. It was an experience because usually, you know, like there is a journalist, we will have a dialogue. There were 6 journalists and they were quite, I'm not going to say they were prepared, but they had opinions. And they kept on coming back with whatever I said. And at some point I said, we need to become more aware. And they said, but come on, we are aware. There are teams of volunteers, you know, like the public is doing this and that. And governments and private organizations and everything, they're informing people. And then I came across to a realization and I realized that, okay, there is a lot of information, but it may as well be the type of information that is not registering. Because I realized that I don't come from a management or a communication academic background. That's why I didn't know that. But I came to a realization that even communication, you can measure the impact of communication. Safety interventions, safety, let's say, marketing and all that, you can measure. And when you measure it, it seems that it is not extremely successful. So I'm putting all this mixed bag together about awareness. Yes, people are not very much aware yet. They're becoming sensitized, let me say, not aware. There is a reason, because I think the message we're portraying perhaps is not the right one. And we need a much more concerted effort than we have, because apparently the problem is much bigger than we think. There was recently a tweet by our friend Enrico Ronchi from Lund. I don't remember the title of the website, but basically, okay, this was a bit too dramatic for what we can take, but this tweet from this website was discussing an extreme. The fact that most probably we're moving towards a much faster and accelerated era where evacuations are going to be extremely important, because episodes are going to be happening, or incidents, or whatever you call them, they're going to be happening more often and with a bigger intense. They're going to be more intense. So I don't know. I hope that this uncertainty is going to ease at some point. But the fact is that for anything, for any action, there must be a reaction. I don't see any reaction for this to gradually calm down or to be minimized, this uncertainty. This is the fact.
Mm-hmm. And as communities and citizens, I think we're forgetting so easily what happens in the
Of course
past.
we are. Of
and
course,
we're settled down so easily. When everything is calm,
yes.
we tend to forget what took place 1 year, 2 years, or 6 years back in the past. And that gives me the opportunity to ask, so you are heavily engaged in in a previous fire, one of the biggest fire in Cyprus, Solea. So you have seen from the first hand, you were the chief investigator, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes. I mean, not the president, but the ministerial council appointed a 3-member committee. I presided over this committee. There were 2 very nice gentlemen from high level officials from the government. Basically, what we were asked was to come up with a few suggestions on how to change things. And although this is now 6 years old, admittedly, all the changes that have occurred in the last 6 years, they are based on the report that we submitted. I have to say that things are much better than they were 6 years ago. I have to also say that there is room for improvement because this awareness and these realization processes that we have described all along, they are not only not happening in the society, but they should be happening also in a political level. In a political level, I think the services now are at a much better position than they used to be, because they're the ones that are dealing with the incident on a daily basis. Yet the political power, the political decisions have to be made. They haven't been made, in my opinion. They must be made in the years to come, and actually in the not so many years to come. We keep on reacting. We keep on focusing on suppression. We're not focusing on preparation, yes. And I think this is the problem is wider, and we need a holistic solution, if there is a solution. At least we need to hurry up. We need to spend time and resources now, because things are, unfortunately, they seem to be changing very much faster than we thought.
There was an interesting and very terrifying tweet that you made a couple of weeks ago that we were entering the fire era, and that scared me. I think it was the same tweet from Enrico, or maybe it was another article.
It was Enrico's tweet, and I retweeted it. And Enrico is, I think, a global authority, together with Rino Lovrelio and Erika Koligowski, and of course Ed Galli and his group. I think they are the 5-6 people that globally are the experts when it comes to evacuations. So when they talk about what they talk, they really know what they're talking about.
We need to hear them. And
we need to hear them, yes. Yeah. We're talking about global figures, global authorities. Yes.
Absolutely. And we need to hear them, and we need, obviously, we go back to this link between the scientific community, the practitioners, and the citizens, and all around is the political will. So with regards to evacuations, we saw the difference that it made the last 2 years, especially in Greece, that they're reacting much more faster after Mati. And you have been an advocate for that for many years now.
Of course. And we have nobody was injured or died. Yeah. So there you go.
Exactly.
It is a correct decision. It is the correct decision, because, like we said, everything needs to be measured. In Mati, Mati was a case of many things going wrong. We can discuss that later, but we should be evacuating. Greece is a different case. Greece is a different case in the sense that a lot of, more or less everything is under political sort of reading, different parties are looking at things in different ways, perhaps many times not for the right reasons, and even civil protection is under this. I'm under the impression that there are people that they feel that something has to happen for people to forget talking about Mati, but this shouldn't be the case. We should concentrate on convincing people that evacuating is the right way. I remember, especially this summer, I was watching a fire in Athens, in the suburbs of Athens, and there was a local resident who said, I'm going to stay here, I'm going to defend my property and all that. I understand this. I haven't had to be in this position. Perhaps I don't know what I would do. But anyway, he insisted, I'm going to stay here, I'm going to defend my property and all that. There was a cameraman, a reporter, they were showing, and they showed this local resident who had, like a hose, and he was, watering around. 30 seconds later, you see a blast like the one that you have behind you, and the local resident fleeing together with the cameraman and the newscaster. And then you realize that if it was that easy to put out a fire with a hose, we wouldn't need firefighters.
Absolutely.
And especially us that were coming from a nation of heroes, and the fact that our history is based on heroes and all that, we do not need modern heroes. At least we do not need modern heroes trying to defend their properties, or heroes that they were trapped, unfortunately, like in Mati. But anyway.
It goes back to risk communication that we.
Of course, it goes back to risk communication, because
always
it goes back to political stances. I mean, there are people that are advocating in the open sphere of communication that I will stay back and I will give my fight. No, you shouldn't stay back. You shouldn't give a fight. It's not your job.
Exactly.
If it was that easy, you wouldn't need to have a firefighter. You wouldn't need to have a firefighting force. You wouldn't need all that. It's not that easy. And it's becoming even more difficult. And what's my message in the last couple of years or a few years is that, especially with volunteers, that it's not, I understand the need for everyone to express their solidarity with society, but it is not a game. It's not about going there and making selfies on your flip-flops. It is not about promoting. It is not about being seen as doing something. That's something very serious. And I'm scared, because you asked me if I'm worried. I'm scared that at some point we're gonna have victims. We're gonna have people trapped, and I really hope that this is not gonna happen. But I'm scared that something like that is gonna happen.
I share your worries, dear George, fundamentally, because I saw the pictures from many volunteers, and I think they're losing the focus there. The focus there. Yeah. The focus is to support and not actually to take photos. I saw some very dangerous practices which could fundamentally lead to death. I will be very open to that, to death, because it's worrying. It's really worrying. I think social media has portrayed its dark influence on that because it gets people to do things that they shouldn't do. And I think we're heading towards a dangerous situation. And I strongly believe that it has to be regulated as soon as possible.
It has to be regulated. Unfortunately, like you said before, Augustine, and I agree with you 100%, regulation comes after a tragedy.
Yes.
And like we're talking about Mati and evacuations and let's say preemptive evacuations that are evacuations are preemptive by default. All right. So regulation came after the tragedy, and unfortunately, I'm under the impression that we're going to see tragedies.
Yes,
with this, with the way that things are happening.
And of course, we are not pessimists. We're just
of course realists. We are not. We are realists. Exactly. I think we're the most non-pessimist. We're the two most optimistic people in the world.
I totally agree. I totally agree.
For sure, yes, we're not spreading any panic or anything, but yes, we have to make sure that there is some risk communication out there.
And going back to the evacuations, we need to get the people aware that in the immediate future, evacuations, even in Cyprus, even though our fuel composition is not as greasy, it's not as We don't have the green and
Aggressive,
the forest. Yes, we don't have these intense fires. Absolutely, in the immediate future, we are going to need evacuations, and people need to get aware of that, and they need to understand these people that really live in rural forest areas. We need to get the message out, not
of course.
after the tragedy, during the tragedy, from before. That may be the occasion that evacuation could take place. How can
You
we
are
do that?
absolutely right, Augustine. And not only that, I think
Mm-hmm.
the message that you are giving is correct. And the message is that, of course, we should welcome volunteers. We should welcome goodwill. Let's
Mm-hmm.
say, goodwill. But this should be confined in prevention, especially those people living around the forest, these communities that are inhabiting the forest, or they live from the forest, they work there. They should be the first that should be trained to lead this effort of prevention. Everyone should become part of this prevention, because unfortunately, we have a society that watches as a spectator. Unfortunately, due to the extravagant nature and the very, let's say, uh, colorful nature of fire and this mystery, because don't forget that fire is one of the elements.
Mm-hmm.
All this mystery that surrounds fire, that magnetizes the people, unfortunately, and the lack of awareness, unfortunately, we have societies, including ourselves, that we're watching as spectators. And we see the media is not doing a very good job there. They're just showing this as a show. It's not a show. It's
Exactly.
not a freak show, for instance, for starters. And that's what they're showing.
And the media need to realize that if we really want to deal with the wildfires and those extreme events, as you perfectly describe it, they need to work more with us
Of
before
course.
summer, prior to
Mhm.
summer.
Of
And
course.
I think USA is doing a very good job on that with the Fire Wise program. You know all
Of
this,
course.
that George. So I think they're doing an excellent job on that. And I saw some clips. They do that way, 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 way before the summer period, way
Of
before the
course, of
wildfire
course.
season.
We're on the rebound here,
Yes. Yeah.
Augustine. We're just on the rebound. On a reaction, like this thing happened. Oh, okay, let's try to do something. Da 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 da. But things can change. But they need a large budgetary allocation. You see, for example, Greece.
Yeah.
In the aftermath of Mati, of course, I think the political world came to a realization that things are extremely difficult nowadays. And what they did was the previous deputy minister, Nikos Kardalias, and now the current minister, Christos Stylianidis, they have put forward a very, very ambitious program that is going to transform civil protection in Greece. Obviously, it will take a few years. It will take a few years because you're talking about a budget of 1.8 billion, which is huge. Okay, for Cyprus, you wouldn't need that much, but you are talking about a huge budget of 1.8 billion in order to design all the actions, in order to adopt all these actions and execute all the actions, both in the prevention as well as the suppression phases of, like the fire cycle. It will take a few years, but the impact will be felt. I think Greece in 5 years from now is going to be in a better position than it is now. And I think it is time for us here also in Cyprus to realize that there needs to be a program. There needs to be an ambitious program, because what we are doing is we're reacting. And we are reacting without coordination. I don't want to say examples, but you see different services trying to copy each other, doing minor things that mostly have a decorative, let's say, effect. Mostly, let's say, an effect that is not going to be felt very much. Instead of having a concerted effort, spending all the budget in creating one unit. We have 2-3 different units, and at the end of the day, there is no result.
Are you being heard as a scientist in Cyprus, as a risk expert? Are you being asked
up to a point? I think, okay, let me, okay, because we said that we should be counting all that.
Yeah.
We should be measuring all that, not counting. We should be measuring. Okay, from the report that we gave, there were a few actions, 60 plus actions. Some of them were adopted. The easy ones were adopted. Okay, if you want to buy, like new clothes, protective, PPEs and all that, of course, it's very easy to do that. There is a program of buying fire vehicles and all that. What I haven't been heard, though, is what it was behind this. You can buy airplanes, you can buy new vehicles, you can buy new boots and all that. Unfortunately, you will still have the same amount of fires, and the amount of fires will be increasing. They will not be decreasing, because what you are doing is someone is sick and you keep on giving them the Panadol, but you are not going back to treat what caused sickness. And this is not heard. And I think it is not understood. I said that many times.
No.
My job is not obviously to remind people. I gave my opinion. It is out there. This year we are very lucky because we have a very a good summer.
Yes.
I mean, temperatures are not extreme. Come on, today we had 34. It is
Yes.
the 8th
Very
of
cool.
very cool. It is the 8th of August. And actually, I switched on my air condition like an hour ago or something, just because we had our meeting. Otherwise, I wouldn't have submitted that. Yeah.
The weird times, like last year, we experienced loads of heat waves, one back to the other.
Of course we did. Of course we did. And that's why we had the biggest fire in history. Makes sense. I mean, it is common, it's like a textbook.
Yeah.
1 + 1 = 2. This year we don't have. Who knows? Maybe next year. But we shouldn't calm down and say, okay, that's it. Yep.
Things change. Things can
things change instantly. You just need a day that is going to be windy, dry, and hot.
That's it.
End of story. One day.
So you have been involved with numerous projects for the scale for Cyprus. I believe
with the World Bank as well. Yes.
I think you are amongst the first in the world for the scale of Cyprus and Ceridis for the number of projects you're running and coordinating, which we are very proud.
I mean,
to have
consider I'm proud of my colleagues as well, because this is a team effort. Yeah, in relation to the size of the country, in relation to the size of the group, I can say that we're quite successful. But what I want to say over the years is that we're not only successful, but we're becoming happier because we're doing things that have an impact. They really have an impact. For instance, now we have a small team in the lab, in the center, that works on forest fires. Let me say, from a soft science approach, we're not modelers. We're not evacuation modelers. We're not fire modelers. We shouldn't replicate what other people do because you just waste your resources. But we're trying to put to bed together fire science and social sciences. All these soft parts that they are actually, they make up a very big part of the fire problem. And this is having a small impact, not only in scientific terms, but in local communities as well. In April, let me give you a very quick example. In April, through the PyroLife ITN that you are involved as well, with my colleagues and early stage researchers, Pooja Pandey and Judith Kirchner, that they did all the work. I just helped with that. We tried to have a 2-3 week workshop here in Cyprus with experts from all around Europe, and I dare say from other parts of the world. to discuss fire governance. And it was very successful because at the end, the impact was not only felt in scientific terms, but we were lucky to benefit from a one-day workshop that we did in the Green Line, together with the United Nations, with representatives from the communities around the island. And I think after the end of this workshop, people came to a realization that this problem is not a problem that happens only, let's say, like in our part of the world or another part of the world, but the reality that fire knows no borders, catastrophes know no borders, and I think this is the motto that we are promoting. And this is actually the most important thing to remember, that if a catastrophe happens in Israel, let's say, it will be felt in the Palestinian Authority, in Jordan, in Lebanon, in, let's say, Nicosia, then you will feel it in Larnaca, and so on and so forth. So what I'm saying is that I'm gradually more and more happy, more and more content with what we are achieving, because it starts having an impact.
Absolutely, and I'm very grateful that I'm involved with you, because
of course
it's expanding my knowledge as well, and we are sharing this knowledge. And I believe the reports and the work that you're doing there, it will fundamentally change the perception of the risk of wildfires, especially the project which Judith and Pooja are involved with.
Of course.
I think it will fundamentally change this. Going back to the wildfires know no borders. This year we all saw the images from London, which you've spent a large part of your life there, and it was scary. And one friend of mine, big time scary. And one friend of mine, he texted me on WhatsApp. He said to me, "What you're preaching so many years, it's now happening, and we are scared." And he's a fire service manager. He said to me, "Now it's here," and he was. I could feel the anxiety from his position, because what they saw as Londoners, as UK citizens, the first impact of wildfires, and so absolutely, wildfires know no borders.
Agustina, it wasn't only the UK. The UK was what we saw in the television. On that day, we had fires in Germany, in Holland, in Croatia, and so many countries. It was amazing. Usually what we're used to is to have fires in our part of the world. And then we, like sometimes we see fires happening in Central Europe or Northern Europe, like the one we had in Sweden a couple of years ago with the mobilization of the European Civil Protection Mechanism. But what we experienced this summer was a few days that there were fires all around Europe, big fires like the ones that you described. And I think this is shocking also because a month later, nobody will remember about this.
Exactly.
For sure.
Like Mati, that you said before, as myself, I'm doing every sometime in intervals around the year, I go back to YouTube and see these videos to remind myself why I'm doing what I'm doing, because of those images, those comments. And I see Mati had, it shocked the people, it shocked us in Greece and Cyprus, because we are connected.
It did shock everyone.
What was the impact on you, George?
Dramatic. I have to say that when I saw the documentary by Alexis Papachelas in Sky TV,
crying.
At some point I stopped and I burst to tears, and I was crying like a baby. I felt that we failed these people.
Me too.
And actually, the very first day that it happened, I sort of wrote, it wasn't a tweet, it was, like a small tweet or something. And I said that what happened will be seen in the records, because Greece is using a fully automated dispatch system, Engage. So everything was recorded. People didn't know about this. And we will find out what happened when we see where the locations where people died. And unfortunately, this was the story. In reality, through the recordings that they would disappear for some time, if you remember, and then they were given to justice. Through the recordings, we saw incompetence, incompetence and failure of communication between, especially between different corps, the police, for example, and the fire service and all that, plus also in the local political level, like in the local authority level, sorry, not local political, local authority level, we saw a failure of preparation, of prevention. And unfortunately, tragically, when we saw where people died, it was very easy to understand what caused the deaths. Because 30–40% of the people died in their cars at a certain point, because the traffic police was guiding people through this point, and at some point the fire came and engulfed everyone. There was a small piece of land that people in the beginning, especially these populists, they complained that it was locked and the owner should have left it open for people to escape. And we realized that it was locked for a good reason. And the reason was that there was no access to the sea. So people were trapped there. And the third biggest, let's say, grouping of deaths was by the sea. Because the people were at the beach, which was by no means a means of escape, like a destination. It shouldn't have been a destination. They were trapped there for 5–6 hours until the Coast Guard decided to start evacuating them. So some people, especially those more vulnerable, they didn't make it. It was a tragedy, a real tragedy, and I hope that we're not gonna have any of it. And actually, I dare say that we don't not celebrate it, but we not commemorate it as much as we should, because this is a turning point. Exactly, not only for Greece, for Europe in general. The impact was huge. Mm-hmm. It is the second biggest fire tragedy in history in Europe. Amazing. Yes. Amazing. And what really haunts me is that I know that there is still, a court trial in place, or it hasn't started yet. I hope that there is going to be justice. So far, there hasn't been justice, and there should be justice for that. This is a very, very, very tragic incident. And there are people that they were responsible. Perhaps not intentionally. I'm not going to say that anyone did it intentionally, but there were people that they should have done certain things and they didn't.
Yes, and justice should be paid.
Justice should be paid, for sure.
I was looking on a report on the 2017 Portugal fires that again claim...
The Pedrogao fire.
Yes. So, but Portuguese have listened a lot and have changed rapidly in a year's time. And I was in awe whilst I was reading the report of how fundamental change, they even changing the actual trees from eucalyptus, they are planting trees which are resisting to wildfires.
Fire resistant, yes. Let me tell you about the Portuguese. Please. I admire the Portuguese a lot because they're one of the most important, let's say, fire science powers in Europe, together with the Spanish and the French as well. The reality, though, is they have done an amazing job. They have transformed things, and they have documented the problems that led to the Pedrogao fire tragedy. One thing that I want to say before I tell you what I was planning to say is that I made a small comparison between the reports from Pedrogao, from Mati, and what you see in Sole as well. And what you see is that actually the failures, they're more or less the same. in Pedroga as well, you have a failure of communication between the fire service and the police. It's exactly the same like Mati. Like in Sole as well, like you have a failure of communication between the various services. So it is there. Or, for example, you see that something very down to earth, very easy to realize is that all different services are using different types of telecommunication. Different frequencies, different everything, so nobody knows what the other one is doing. Yes, it doesn't make sense anyway. But I have to say that although all Europeans, we admired very much the Portuguese for what they did for this transformation, reality is that this year that they have a bad summer, there are no deaths, of course, but the amount of fires has really increased. So they were lucky also to have experienced a very, how do you say that, a very non-heavy summer in the previous 2 years. This year it has been, yes.
So you've been involved with numerous projects and with technological innovations and with regards to wildfires. Do you think technological innovations and instruments and softwares and hardwares will have a significant impact in the years to come?
Of course they will have, but let us go and I think we mentioned some of the people here that they are developing this, at least from the scientific part. I think from the names that we mentioned, only Guillermo Rein is missing, yes. and the people in the United States. But I think at least in the European level, we mentioned most of the big players, and we are very lucky to have had all these people in Cyprus in the last 10 years visiting us. So yes, technological advances are gonna have a very much, let's say, an influential impact on that, but I think the problem is very big, and as we said before, we should move towards a holistic solution. And this holistic solution should involve mobilization of all available technologies, innovation to come up with even more successful and even more productive suppression means, but also a huge concerted risk communication effort, both in the governmental level, as well as the local authority level, as well as the educational system. Because with the educational system, we are not doing anything. We are not doing anything at all. And I think it is time to develop a national plan, a national education plan for the management of the impacts of the climate crisis. Our children should know about these risks, and when you know about the risks, you manage to avoid them much easier, and you try to take precautionary actions that are not going to put you in a position that you will have to face these risks.
With regards to children education, we are very late on that, significantly very late, and we are years behind. And we need to do our best to capture that.
Absolutely.
And if the ministry, any of the ministerial personalities are listening to us now, I think they need to hurry up. They need to hurry up.
They should listen, because at some point, unfortunately, if they don't listen to us now, or like the other people around, unfortunately, they will hear the music in the years to come. Things are going to be not very easy for some time. I don't know what is going to be the future. I'm not a futurologist or an anthropologist.
You're a scientist,
but for the time being, I think that we're going to go through a difficult period.
What is your message, George, to the communities? Community leaders, communities, the people. What is your message? Because you're closing now this beautiful interview.
Yes, thank you very much for that. But I think the message is loud and clear. Talk to each other and discuss with each other and make decisions. Make decisions in all levels. We said that people are spectators. People are spectators because there is a spectacle. There is something that they're watching. So the decisions are made in this level. We shouldn't continue making the decisions only in this level. Decisions should be communicated down to the communities. The communities should be sensitized. We said before that fire entered the political agenda in Greece for the wrong reasons. Fire should enter civil protection, let me say, because it's not only about fire. You saw that the last year in Cyprus, we have so many industrial accidents as well and many floods.
Numerous.
So it is not only about fires, it is about, let me rephrase, it is about catastrophes. It is about civil protection on how to respond to these catastrophes. It should enter the political agenda, and it should enter it for the right reasons. And I want to see politicians coming up with proposals. What I see at the moment is just reaction, and a reaction, late reaction. I want to see a plan. There is no plan.
And one of the things is, thank you so much for this message. It's a very loud and honest message. And we don't need a perfect plan. We need a plan. Let's just start. And
Yes.
the political view, the political drive, along with the scientific processes and the involvement of the practitioners, I think we're going to get to a good stage. We just need to start from somewhere, even the very scratch. And I think the expertise are there. The experts are there and they are available, and they need to listen. What about your message to the first responders, firefighters, like myself?
First responders are heroes. First responders are heroes.
What's your
Because
message to them now?
Yeah, my message to them is to keep up what they are doing. We do understand that they are not equipped always to do their job in the best possible way. They should have been. And the role of the rest of us is to become more vocal so that people like you can do their jobs in the best possible way, both optimizing their health because there is an impact, both optimizing the psychosocial issues surrounding the first responder profession, and many other parameters that are not looked at the moment. People are expecting from you to take part in this spectacle, if I dare say, without paying the ticket. They don't chip in. We don't expect them to pay, like in a monetary fashion, but they have to chip in. The society must become a member of that. The community should become aware, like we said. They should be part of that because you need the help.
Thank you so much. I echo your voice. I echo your words, Professor. Any other message you want to spread out?
That's it. I think, our communication should be focused. I think we had an excellent discussion, and thank you very much for that, Augustine. I think a new career opens for you because you moderated this discussion very, very well, and I'm known to have chaotic behavior when I talk, jump from one point to the other, but I think we had a very, very good discussion. I look forward when you finish all these rounds next year, perhaps, to follow up to see if anything has changed. But thank you very much for the work you are doing.
Thank you so much for being here.
If I can say that on behalf of at least our group, that it is highly appreciated in all the levels,
I'm very grateful. Being part of the team. And thank you so much. Have a beautiful afternoon and evening.
Thank you. You too. Thank you. Thank you very
Bye.
much. Bye.